Hello guys, it's Lion here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we are doing our YouTuber of the Month tag video, I guess you could call it. It's basically a question and answer kind of concept to introduce myself to the Omnibuds Cafe Facebook group. Due to a bit of networking on the part of J-Rock from Comic Swag, I ended up getting in contact with Sal and Kevin from Omnibuds Cafe, and I ended up joining the group. And I was asked if I wanted to be YouTuber of the Month. It's kind of a bit of an interchange there where, you know, they promote me, I promote them, and we both get new subscribers out of it, right? New people to interact with us. And I found it to be a really interesting concept, so I accepted, and here we are. So now this video is going to be a bit of a tag video, right? If you've ever seen booktube tags, it's the same kind of concept. There's a few questions that I have that were given to me by Sal, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. I'll try to be a bit succinct so you don't watch like a 30-minute video, but they might not be because, you know, a lot of this is emotional and referential and stuff like that, so I need to explain a bit, right? So we'll try to get this done as fast as possible though, so I don't waste too much of your time. In terms of the channel itself, if you're watching this without being part of the Omnibuds Cafe, basically all I'm doing is mentioning them throughout the month, making sure that you guys are aware of them, and leaving links down to their Instagram and their Facebook so that you guys can join them if you're interested, right? They don't really have too much of a manga presence yet, but they are hoping to grow it, so please join it. Even if you're not really that big into comic books, you can share some of your manga takes, and you know, eventually people will talk to you about it because manga and comic books are ultimately the same kind of idea, right? So yeah, let's get started here. I guess the most important question is, what got you into comics? And I think I basically answered this already in another one of these videos that I did a few months ago when J-Rock was YouTuber of the Month. I wanted to do a response video to him, so I'll leave it somewhere up there. I can't remember what side the iCards show up, but how did I get into comic books? And there really isn't a singular reason why I got into comic books. I always liked superhero cartoons. I always enjoyed anime, even when I didn't know it was anime. And so I think naturally, just kind of one day, I just kind of ended up realizing that, you know, these stories were collected in comics, and that I wanted to buy some. So I do have 3 comic books that come to mind when I think of like the first comics I ever bought, which I guess is not really the question, but it's close enough. So I'll mention them now. When I was a kid, we went down to Mexico once to visit some family. We were at a bookstore at a mall near our house down there in Mexico, and me and my sister were just browsing the kids section. She found a little collection of Garfield comic strips, and my dad bought it for her because he thought it would be good to start getting her to read, because I was already past the age where they needed to do that for me. I was a big fan of reading, right? And so she bought that, or my dad bought it for her, and that's basically more or less the first comic book that I remember owning. Although I do have a memory of a Transformers Armada comic that I had that was like a little square book, but I don't remember buying it, and I don't know where it came from. It just kind of appeared in my house one day. At least that's how I remember it. And I do have it somewhere at home, but I don't remember the story behind it, so I'm not going to mention it, right? So Garfield. A few years later, I was browsing my local used bookstore that I've been going to for the last 15 years, and they ended up having a new shelf that day. That shelf was for manga. It didn't really have too much of a selection. It just had a bunch of Naruto volumes, some Dragon Ball, some Sailor Moon, kind of stuff like that. But at the time, we were living in a hotel, which sounds insane, but it's because we lived in a house. We moved, we bought a new house, and our house where we lived in initially sold faster than it was anticipated, so we ended up having to move out and live in a hotel for about a month. So I was living the sweet life of Zach and Cody for about a month. It wasn't that great, but during that time, I would steal my mom's computer when she wasn't using it, and I would load up YouTube and I would watch Dragon Ball on YouTube, because back in the day you could do that. You had to find, you know, Dragon Ball Part 1, Episode 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, and if you didn't find one of them, you just had to skip it and move on, right? And that was a really interesting time for me. A few years later, or a few months later maybe, after we had moved on to our new house, I was back at my used bookstore, and I saw they had Volume 1 of Dragon Ball in the red editions, the kind of Viz Media editions after they went back to the normal Tokyo Pop Tankobon size, and I picked it up, and that was my first manga that I ever bought. And then when it comes to American style comics, the first one that I ever bought was Earth 1 Superman. This was a trade paperback that I bought, and the reason why I bought it was because we were down in Mexico again. We were at this store called Sanborn's, which is kind of like a Macy's, but scrunched down and kind of has a giant library section. And we were browsing stuff. I saw that they had Earth 1 Superman. I loved the cover. I thought it was awesome. And I wanted to buy it alongside a bunch of other books. My parents saw my pile of books, and they never said no to me buying books. They were always okay with it, but they thought that I wanted to buy too many, so I had to pick one. And I picked the one that I thought looked coolest, and that was Earth 1 Superman. And so that was my first comic book. And then from there, I kind of bought manga and comics every once in a while. I was mostly reading novels at the time. And then I stopped reading for a while. I came to college. I went through college, started reading again. COVID happened. I moved back home for a while. I came back here afterwards to finish off college. And when I moved to this apartment complex that I live in now, I realized that there was a comic book store basically up the road from me, right? It's the comic book store that I go to now. And I decided to go and visit it and see what's up. I've been watching a lot of Comic Pop at the time, I think, and I decided to sign up for a pull list. And I started buying random stuff. I became a Wednesday Warrior out of that. And I'm really enjoying it. I love buying comic books. I think that the price for them is pretty outrageous, actually. I think it's not good, but it's fine because I get a lot of enjoyment out of it anyways, right? Going to the comic book store every week at the same time, talking to the guys at the comic book store, enjoying my conversations with them, being friendly with them is really fun. Getting my books, coming home, reading them after a long day, and then finally putting them away in their bags, in their boards, putting them away wherever they're supposed to go is all very meditative or therapeutic or whatever you're going to call it. And so to me, it feels very great. I really love that there's this multi-step process to collecting comic books that really brings me a lot of joy, right? And so that's why I became a Wednesday Warrior and why I stayed one. I do agree, or I do think that collected editions are the way to go. They are the best way to collect or to own books to read, because if I want to read my whole collection of Rogue Sun, I have to get out 22 or something comic books and then have to unbag all of them and then read them as I'm going, and that's not really that fun. It's more fun to put them away. It's not really fun to take them out again. And so eventually I will buy some Rogue Sun collected editions. I'm hoping for a deluxe edition, but we never know if we'll get one or not, so it is what it is. The group that I joined is mostly an omnibus group, and omnibuses are great. I think they are the best bang for your buck, but I find them to be a bit unwieldy to read, so I don't actually like them. I think my favorite my favorite collection type is probably a compendium, which is a smaller omnibus, usually a paperback, or deluxe editions. I love deluxe editions. I think that the oversize aspect of them is great. I like that they're a lot of volumes, but they're not so large that they're really, really unwieldy. And I think that the price point for them is mostly pretty good. $50. Usually you can get them for about 25 or 30 if you wait a bit after they release, right? So deluxe editions are probably my favorite, which is why I don't really have too much Marvel stuff. I don't think Marvel does deluxe editions, and if they did, because of the way that their continuity works, they don't really have individual stories to collect. It's kind of weird, right? They just kind of have omnibuses and trades. So that's why I don't really own too much Marvel, but I do own a lot of DC. I do own a lot of Image and some Boom here and there, right? So let's see. That's basically the answer to that. The next question was, what's your top 5 superheroes and villains? And I don't really have 5 supervillains that I like, and I do have 5 superheroes, so I'll just focus on that. So the question is top 5 superheroes. In no particular order, and sticking just to the big 2, I would say Wonder Woman, Blue Beetle, Green Arrow, Spider-Man, and then probably Thor or Iron Man. And Spider-Man is just due to familiarity, right? I've known Spider-Man my whole life. I am aware of what he is. I've seen countless cartoons of Spider-Man. I love all of the movies, the Tobey Maguire ones, the Andrew Garfield ones, the Tom Holland ones. I love all of them. I think they're all really great, even if they're not that good, right? I really enjoy watching them. Blue Beetle is a recent love of mine. I really liked the movie. I really enjoyed the Trujillo run with, what's his name? Adrian something. The guys that did Graduation Day and then the 11 issue run for Dawn of DC. I love them. I think that run is great. I think it's very meaningful, and I really want more of it. So Blue Beetle is one of my new favorite superheroes. Green Arrow is just from the TV show, and because I loved the year 1 volume, and because I think that he's a really cool concept. I really love the kind of like modern interpretation of Robin Hood kind of aspect that he has, right? Wonder Woman, I love her design. I love the idea of this glorious, beautiful, loving, generous, good warrior woman. I think that's phenomenal. I think that she's never really lived up to her hype, which sucks because she really should be able to. There really is no reason for her not to be the greatest, most well thought of superhero with some of the best stories. I think a lot of it has to do with her origin and how she came about. Kind of a bit of a kind of a fetish thing, right? I think the guy that created her was like in a polyamorous relationship or something like that. And the concept of like, just like, the fact that she's a woman and that's so different from the other superheroes, which shouldn't be that hard to write, but what ideal is she trying to strive for? Especially now in the modern age, it's like, is she supposed to be a strong, independent woman, or is she supposed to kind of have all of the ideal kind of concepts that everyone assumes women have, right? Like a propensity towards motherhood, homemaking, and stuff like that. And how is that supposed to work with her abilities as a superhero, right? So I understand that she's a complex character to write for, but at the same time, I don't think it should be that hard to make her a badass warrior woman that also is just gentle, right? I think they've done that with male characters so many times in such a great way. And the fact that Wonder Woman hasn't really been able to have like a seminal, amazing, like, wow, this is the greatest story ever kind of concept sucks, right? So I love her for the potential and for the design of the character. I think that she's a really interesting looking character, one that I really appreciate, and her lore is pretty interesting, right? What was the other character that I mentioned? Thor or Iron Man? I like Thor because I like the concept of this god that comes down to be a superhero. I think that's fun. And Iron Man, basically just for the movies. I think Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of Iron Man is awesome. And I really love the MCU Iron Man. So yeah, I guess I gave you my top 6 superheroes. I don't really have top favorite supervillains. I've not read enough comics to really have more than a few supervillains that I can think of. And most of them are like Batman villains, and I actually don't like Batman that much. So it's kind of hard to really answer that. Let's see, what's next? What's an omnibus you could never sell? I only have one omnibus, and that is Jeff Johns' New 52 Aquaman. I will never sell that book, even if I need to, because my sister gave it to me. It's one of the first comic books that I picked up after I started this channel, before I got my pull list at my local comic book store, and I love that run of Aquaman. I think it's really awesome. So I don't think I would ever sell it, especially not the copy I own, because my sister gave it to me, so it means a lot to me, right? So I think that answers that question. What are my goals for comic books and YouTube in 2024? I want to get to 2,000 subscribers on YouTube by the end of the year. I don't think it's possible, so I've been thinking about minimizing that to 1,500. That should be doable, but it's not really that big of a deal. I'm not doing YouTube for money or anything like that. I'm doing this for fun. A lot of the fun does come from gaining more subscribers and getting more people talking to me and stuff like that. But, ultimately, if 3 people watch me, I'm fine as long as they talk to me about it, like leave comments and stuff. I don't really like screaming into the void, which is weird because that's basically what YouTubers do, right? But the reason I made this channel is to create a community around me and others that love manga, because even though I had my roommates, my friends, are into manga and anime, they're not into manga and anime to the level that I am, right? And so
I wanted people that were more interested in it more deeply. And since I started the channel, I have I've had the opportunity to connect with people that really mean a lot to me and done some really cool stuff, right? I recently did an interview with someone that works on the Conan comic book, Jeff Shanks. He's a Robert E. Howard scholar, so that was awesome. I became very close friends with a few different guys that were coming up at the same time as me. So, I basically have succeeded in doing what I wanted to do with YouTube for the sake of doing YouTube, right? So I don't really have too many goals beyond just growing the channel a bit more. In terms of comic books, I actually kind of basically achieved my goals for comic books too. I wanted to collect Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. A friend gave that to me for my birthday, so that was amazing. I want to finish collecting Invincible. My sister helped me with that. She got me some Invincible books for my birthday. But I don't think I'll be able to finish it for this year, but it is what it is. It's not a big deal. The only other thing that I can think of is finishing off Once and Future. The Omnibus came out, the second deluxe edition came out. It's already reduced in price a bit. I just need to find the right time when I have $35 to buy it. I might just ask my sister or my parents to get it for me for Christmas. I'm not really sure, but that's probably my goal, just to collect a few more of the deluxe editions that I really like. And that's basically all there is for my goals for that. What do you most want but has been never made into an omnibus? I'm going to go with a manga choice here. So, technically speaking, Dragon Ball, the original series, has been turned into an omnibus before. It's part of the Viz Big line, which means that they're Viz comic books or Viz manga that are slightly bigger than the large editions that they have. So it's not quite as big as a normal trade paperback. I think it's maybe more or less in line with the Dark Horse size, like slightly smaller. And I think it's. I think that with the advent of the massive deluxe edition manga that's coming out, Dragon Ball, the original series, the first, I think it was like 15 volumes. When Goku's a young boy, deserves to have that treatment. I want some massive, insanely unnecessarily garish orange and blue Dragon Ball omnibuses, right? It could be like 2 or 3 of them. That would actually probably work pretty well. Or it could be like the 5 Vizbigs, but they just made them bigger and put nice leather covers on them and stuff like that. So I guess that's probably what I'll say there. It's a bit too recent, but the Graduation Day team, they did 17 issues, I think, or 18 issues of Blue Beetle. And, that's not enough for an omnibus, but it's enough for a deluxe edition. So I would like them to be collected into a deluxe edition. I think that would be great. So I would like that too. Otherwise, I don't really care too much about omnibuses, right? Like I mentioned, I would rather have deluxe editions. And I would like to have the Marvel Ultraman stuff as a deluxe edition. They'll probably end up doing an omnibus eventually, if they get enough books for it. But that would be it, right? So what did I say? I said Dragon Ball. I want omnibuses of Dragon Ball, big, massive orange omnibuses of Dragon Ball. I would like the Trujillo Blue Beetle run to also be collected. And I would like... what was the last one that I said? The Ultraman, the Marvel Ultraman stuff, right? So that's a pretty good answer for that one, I think. Let's see. What is your whale that you're hoping to harpoon? I don't really have a whale. I don't have a book that I desperately want but have no chance of getting right now. I guess you could say that about the Conan omnibuses, but it's fine. I'm sure that they'll release different variations of that later. Maybe they'll do Roy Thomas compendiums, or they'll do some smaller hardcover, or they'll do a deluxe edition. I'm not really chomping at the bit for anything right now. I don't really have any massive urges for any series right now. So yeah, and then the last bit is, how's your experience with the Omnibuds Cafe so far? I'm really liking it. I think it's a nice group. Most of the time I see that there's basically 2 types of interactions there, and I think that they're both are really valuable. So one is the buy-sell trade interactions, which are pretty meaningful, and I really appreciate them because it's a good way to get discounted prices on books, and they're usually pretty well cared for because everyone there knows to take care of their books. And the other types are, hey, here's an opinion, let's talk about it, or hey, I saw this cool thing, let's share it. And both of them are pretty valuable types of interactions. So I really appreciate that. I think that they're pretty cool. I really enjoy being part of the group. I don't really interact with them all that much because I'm not really on Facebook all that often. You know, I have a tab open and it's always open, so people maybe assume that I'm always on, but that's not true. I barely ever use it. But I thought it was important to have one because most of the people that I want to interact with are older and they basically just have Facebook as their interaction, as their social media, right? So it is what it is. But yeah, Omnibuds Cafe, YouTuber of the Month video, done. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you thought. I'll put the link to the questions down below, or I'll put the questions down below in the comment section. If you guys are interested in answering them, please do so. I would love to know what your answers are. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and see you guys next time.